Hi, my name is Christina Medalia. I'm originally from Zimbabwe and currently living in the UK. Now, because of my journey into the human mindset, psychology, and energy work, I coach, train, and practice what I have learned to facilitate my own and others' past experiences, to be able to complete old stagnant past experiences and allow a more natural positive state to emerge and resurface, whether there be peace or even happiness, and be able to make room for more balance and a better quality of life. My life hasn't always been this way. My journey started unbalanced, in an emotional state of mind, feeling powerless and vulnerable, and just existing in the present whilst living and even focused on the past. That's really scary, isn't it? Having a feeling of feeling out of control, carrying a victimhood flag constantly, just blaming and holding resentment and believing life is just happening to me. Have you ever felt like that? And if you were like me, and you are now ready to say yes to you, for you, to take the next step, whether it's just for you to add a modality to your life experiences, something that's going to help you in your everyday, day-to-day life and challenges you have. And we do always have challenges. Now, this is really great, and especially if you're feeling in a place right now where you are uncertain, where you feel a lot of confusion, you feel really stuck. But we believe that everything comes from within. We are getting signs and signals all the time based on how you are feeling in this present moment, and I'll come to that in a moment. And this, what I do, is really great because it's brilliant in the fact that it allows your natural ability to be the dominant point of self-healing, and it allows you to be able to reconnect with that, because it seems that a lot of people have kind of forgotten about that part of us, and everybody has access as a human to these self-healing abilities. Now, what I will teach you will allow you not only to be able to facilitate the self-healing with others, but also as you're doing that, you are having a self-healing for yourself as well. That's why I say it's energy for energy. This is really brilliant because stuff is always coming up and we are always facing challenges. And I feel that if I knew what I know now in the past, I would definitely have dealt with things in a different way. That is why one of the presuppositions that I came across in my learnings was people were doing the best they can with what they know. And we can put that and apply that to many situations, to our parents perhaps. And even with us in our past, we only did what we did because that's what we knew. And if I knew this in the past, I definitely would have applied that to my life, especially how I dealt emotionally with my external experiences. Why I say that is because how I dealt with my external experiences, it affected me in my inner state emotionally, and I feel that I could have been more gentler with myself, and I would have been more kinder to myself even. And this is where you hear a lot of people and a lot of coaches where you hear the saying of loving yourself. You hear so many modalities are including that in their trainings, and they spread in the word of awareness of loving yourself first, only because that's where it all starts. Once you have that for yourself, then you can have that for anybody else. So this will apply to you finding your next partner, for example. Once you clear that lens and you are not looking through the lens of hurt and pain and fear and insecurity, then once you clear that lens, you'll be able to look at things in a more different way. You will have a standard on your next partner that you have. It's not going to settle for anyone. That is just with anything in life. Once you clear your lens, then you are looking at life in a totally different way. What you focus on is kind of like what you experience. So that's why we say you bring into reality what you focus on. That is what you experience. So I may experience today as being a brilliant day, although it's really rainy outside, and somebody might experience today as a miserable day only because it's raining outside. But it's the same day. It's the exact same day. And yes, we are two different people, but that's based on our programming and it's based on our life experiences. And how would you like to connect with your own healing ability so you too can release what you choose and stale energy that has been draining you for so long? You can now purposely direct your energy in a direction of your choice. So you can be true to yourself and you can create balance and improve the quality of your life and have a transformation. And when any future challenges come up, as they do, you have what I teach you in your back pocket to carry you through. The biggest lesson I have learned is that I am in control. I have choice and I have an awareness and understanding of my emotions. Now, what I'm going to share with you has been an eye-opener for me. Like I said before, I've done many modalities and I am so grateful for every mentor and training I have been to. And also it depends what you are drawn to as an individual. Now, how many of you have heard of something called secondary trauma? Now, I'll give you a good example, okay? I know there's a lot of stuff going on at the moment. It has a purpose to be updated with information, to know what is going on. Because if you think about it, all that's coming up on the news is about the epidemic that we have. And we are getting information, which is great, on what we need to be doing. Now, you will notice that there isn't a lot of other news going on, if that makes sense, about stuff that was happening in the world. Not very nice stuff that you would want to be watching on a day-to-day basis, and probably stuff that will create a lot of fear in people. And it also depends if you have ability to shake things off as you hear them. Now, there is some people that don't. There is some people that do not have that ability to shake things off when they hear about it. Another thing is people may associate it to their own life or similar situations. They may start to associate it happening to them as well. And that creates a lot of fear, and that actually interferes with your energy, your energetic focus, because before that your focus wasn't blocked. Before that your energy was free. But after you heard or learned about, or it became into your awareness about the situation, you got all blocked up with fear. And what do people do when they're fearful? They do stuff that may be irrational. They do stuff possibly out of character, and they are not thinking straight. You may find that panic may arise out of fear, and your inner knowing is blocked. How many people have been in that situation? Actually, our day-to-day lives, we just constantly go, 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 go. We have so much stuff going on. We have never time to stop for ourselves and connect with it and how we're feeling. And then you get these aches and pains coming up and you wonder why. And can you ever think to yourself that perhaps it's a sign, it's a signal to stop, and listen, pay attention perhaps to something that you need to be aware of. let go of, focus on perhaps. You know, everything comes from within. We have a natural ability to do many things that we even believe at this moment in time that we are unable to do it, only because of our environment, our upbringing, and it's a learning process, and that's all okay. Where we start from is from here, from now, from this point where you're at, and you can move forward from where you are. Now, we're already carrying stuff with us, right, from our past experiences that we haven't let go of. And some of us think maybe we have, but then at the same time, we've either suppressed it or we've ignored it, or it comes up all the time for us and we're just having to deal with it all the time. It can be very hard work and very painful and very stressful at the same time to be able to constantly have those skeletons out of the closet, if I might say, popping up all the time. And you never know. It's like, what's that game? I don't even know what that game they play at the circus. You know what I mean. So that's what happens. These things from the past, while you're having a great day or whatever, it will just pop up. It will just pop up, and you have to deal with it. And pop up again, and you have to deal with it. And at the same time, if you basically had the learning from that experience and you honestly completed that trauma cycle, you will look at that experience in a different light. Let's just say you will not see it the same way you did. If you're constantly watching all the time the figures and the numbers, as long as you're doing what you're supposed to do in terms of staying safe and staying inside and keeping yourself safe and keeping your body healthy and just keeping your immunity up, drinking lots of hot drinks, having lots of vitamins, vitamin C, all that stuff just to keep yourself healthy, having quiet time, meditating if you love to meditate, for example, and just enjoying your time and your quality time with your family. Then constant news watching isn't going to help you if you're one of those that cannot shake things off. For those that don't have great resilience, you carry that information and it's upsetting for you. And you get to remember that story day in, day out, and you can't forget it. Only because it really traumatized you. Okay, so if you want to do a little practice with me, say for example you hear a story from a friend, or you hear a traumatic story, for example, on the news. If you hear in the news and you're one of those that cannot shake things off, for example, just think to yourself, how does that make me feel? So at that present time while you're watching the news, just think, how does this story make me feel? And if it's upsetting and you carry it with you, notice in your body where you are feeling this discomfort. Maybe you feel it in the pit of your stomach. Maybe something you can't digest, perhaps. A location in your body where you can feel it. And normally with any situation and you got any discomfort or whatever, you must always feel, how does it make me feel? Do you remember as a child, did any of your parents perhaps ask you, how are you feeling? You see, it's not a normal practice that probably was present in those times. And if you think about it, that's why some people find it really hard to connect to their emotions. It's really important connecting to your emotions, especially this day and age with all the stuff and all these stories you're hearing about people not being able to cope with their emotions. And I mean, even as a young child, you're told off for crying, perhaps, and crying is a great way. Crying is a great way to release, and crying is a great way to complete a trauma cycle that you are dealing with at that present time. So it's always good to allow somebody to cry. So if somebody's crying, allow them to cry. Don't interfere in terms of wanting to give them a hug at their present moment, unless they come to you for it. That's absolutely fine. You can actually practice these ways. It's something that we have to obviously instill in ourselves to be able to automatically and unconsciously just practice doing it. But these are things growing up that we didn't experience. They were not in our awareness. So now it is something new to us, especially for people in personal development. This is what we are taught. We are taught to connect with our emotions, to be able to acknowledge them. For them being there, there's nothing wrong with being them. Yes, there's people say there's negative and there's positive, okay? People have a right to be angry. People have a right to be sad. People have a right to be fearful, for example, but just for a little moment and then to let it go. Now, the thing is, people hold on to it for so long that they don't know how to let it go. And the thing is, they even hold on to it that it stores energetically in the body, thus creating tension in the body, thus creating ailments in the body, thus creating lifelong depression and illnesses. And the list goes on. So we as humans have the ability to be able to feel and the ability to be able to gently and freely release. Because at the same time, we all need boundaries. So when somebody steps over your boundary, yes, you can tell them. You can tell them that you've stepped over my boundary. But when you tell them, you don't have to be angry. Yeah, it may make you feel angry at that moment in time. You may feel the rising of the anger, but you don't have to act in a manner of anger, because that is what a lot of people do these days. They get really angry because somebody has stepped over the line, because in the past they were unable to say no to somebody who stepped over the line, for example. And the only way they can basically deal with somebody is by getting angry, and they only feel brave and strong enough and confident enough to only say no when they are angry. Now you will have to learn how to say no and set your boundaries in a neutral state. But at the same time, for the other person to understand you've overstepped my boundaries, this is something I don't like, and then you can get the message across in a better way, better communication, for example. But we must always state our boundaries. And if we stub our toe and kick something, yeah, it's going to be really painful. And yes, you're going to be so annoyed with yourself for not looking where you're going, for example. You might say a few swear words, but that's absolutely fine. But at the same time, you don't hold on to that the whole day, do you? No, you don't. You shake it off and it's gone. And that's the way you should be able to deal with these emotions that come up for you, emotions that don't serve you in the long run. I won't say negative and positive. That's fine. That's what we know them as. I'll address them as that sometimes. But for this moment in time, I will say something that is not going to serve you in the long run if you hold them on for too long. Because holding on to love for a long time, that's going to be amazing. So back to the news. Okay, so basically with the news, you've got all the stuff, as you know, we're holding on to. And then to top the cherry on the cake, we just watch some news that's going to upset us, that we cannot let go of because we're not so resilient. And yeah, we just add secondary trauma to the list. And this is what I'd like to share with you today, secondary trauma. So why would you want to know about secondary trauma? So for example, somebody else talks about something and it really stresses them out, and then it stresses you out. And then it allows your own vulnerabilities and your own insecurities to surface. That can even bring up suppressed trauma, leaving you upset and you're unable to shake off the negative residue that is left behind in your mind and even in your body. Now, how does it work? Where in your body did you feel discomfort upon hearing the story? This is a great way to practice connecting with your feelings and connecting it in your body as well. Have you ever heard the saying, that which doesn't kill only makes us stronger? It all depends how you react to trauma after surviving it. It can cause you to be less sensitive, meaning feeling desensitized to future trauma, for example, which means, well done, you have successfully suppressed your trauma. What some people perceive as their story is actually the ability to disassociate. Which brings me to this great story I heard. We as humans, We lack the animal ability to complete a trauma cycle after surviving it, whether it was emotional or even physical. Here's an example. If an antelope narrowly escapes an attack by a lion, wouldn't you agree that that antelope is traumatized? But as soon as the antelope is safe, he goes through a process of shaking it off after he's just survived a traumatic experience, and he starts to graze again as if nothing ever happened. Can you imagine that? This is according to Dr. Robert C. Scasia. This process of completing a trauma is a way of discharging retained atomic nervous system energy. And according to Scasia's research, humans lack this ability. The humans physically survive the trauma, however, never complete the trauma cycle. The traumatic experience may be imprinted and stored in the brain and the body. There is suppressed adrenaline in the body, and the muscles are so tensed, as if the body is still trying to protect itself from the possible threat, that this behavior and pattern can resurface again. And tension and rigidity is experienced. That's why past trauma can create many long-term symptoms in the body. And even when a human does survive the trauma, there is no releasing of the nervous energy, and the person keeps carrying that trauma for the rest of their lives. And according to epigenetic research, specific trauma and survival tactics and patterns, which are the most common challenges that we are facing and have trouble healing. Many successful healing modalities must enable you or the client to complete the trauma. And the good news is this cycle doesn't even have to involve anything that is stressful. If anything, you should be blissfully unaware of it. In a moment of trauma, the body will find a way to be and feel safe. This may be reaching out to somebody, for example, for safety, or taking comfort in either of the numbness or freeze instinct. I'll speak to you about that in the next episode. And every time you experience a similar trauma, you may revert back to the state of mind and gut instinct that initially kept you safe. And this can have a long-term effect of allowing you to dissociate from many areas of your life. So for example, being numb or feeling paralyzed once served you in a positive way. And however, the positive survival tactic has negative consequences. The numbness will influence every aspect of your life, and unfortunately not always in a good way. So in finding your survival instinct in the moment of trauma may cause you to associate trauma with survival. You may find yourself afraid of letting go of the trauma because it may mean letting go of the survival instinct you've adopted that once kept you safe. You see, we all have a different way of completing trauma. And the problem starts when we hold on to the trauma, either consciously or unconsciously, as we might think that it could protect us in the future against similar incidents. And humans have more or less the same reaction, and we often also shake off or shiver after a traumatic experience has passed. And when a traumatic event takes place in a person, the heartbeat increases and often increases the blood pressure as well. However, in other cases, it can actually drop the blood pressure, which causes a person to feel really cold. Now, as shaking and shivering start to dissipate, so does the heart rate. And the reason why I'm sharing this with you is to put it into your awareness so you too can now have the awareness to be able to take care of yourself. And it's exactly like you take care of what you're putting in your body, and this is the exact same thing. You are taking care of what you're putting into your mind. I mean, we constantly have stuff playing in the background, and we don't know what our children are taking on as beliefs, for example, and they may be very young, which they don't understand, but when they get older, they may act in a way that may be in line with what they heard perhaps when they were younger. Because I know my mentality and my state of mind is totally different from a young person, for example. So I would practice doing things a bit differently. So if you think what I'm sharing is for you and you'd like to find a little bit more, then if you think this will help somebody that you know, then please feel free to share this with them as well. And so if you click the link below and like, share, whatever you want to do, comment. I do one-to-one coaching via Skype. We initially do a discovery call over the phone just to ensure that you are happy with what I have to share, and I'm happy with being able to assist you in your facilitating. And it is, and I also do training for Rapid Growth Training Mat Level 1. And you may also see it's called Metaphysical Anatomy Level 1, and I do that in small groups, which is really great. So if you see me advertising, you better make sure you get on it and get your tickets straight away. And if you do find any of my trainings are full and you feel, oh no, I've missed it, don't worry, send me an email and I will be able to put you down on the waiting list for the next one. I will be doing as many as these as I can, only because it is an amazing way to be able to grow within yourself and also be able to connect with your own natural abilities. So this is really great, and why I talk about a way of gently being able to release old stagnant energy that is blocked. That's stopping you from moving forward and be the best person you can be in your life. We get to work with that. We get to work with stale energy. We get to work with lack of confidence. We get to work with people who are stuck in it and feeling they're stuck in their lives. We get to work with people that are dealing with ailments and would like to learn about self-healing. And the best part about an MRT session, you don't have to relive it. You don't have to talk about it. And you don't even have to remember. How amazing is that? Because at the same time, you know everything you know. And a lot of stuff is unconscious that you're not aware of. So we get to tackle that. We get to deal with that. We get to expose that. We get to be aware of that. And we get to release that, which has been affecting your life for a very long time. Just like a reset button. Once you release it, you just reset. You're still you, the amazing you. You just reset. You just release any energy that is not serving you. So if you resonate with me and like to connect with me, I work from the heart. Because everyone's got amazing gifts. And who do you think this training's for? This training's for you. Who's watching me right now to the very end? This training is for those that that feel a bit lost in their lives perhaps. That are open to working with energy, and for those who want to reignite their self-healing ability. So if you're one of those people, doesn't matter what walk of life you're on or journey, then I'd love to meet you, and I'd like to share what I have learned from my journey. Thank you for watching. Cressida Medaglia.